I bought some boards in town to make up the panels for the front and the sides, but the edges on the boards are a bit rounded over and they're not completely straight. So I'm going to use my 10-inch block plane to straighten them out. I've rough cut all my panel blanks and I've set up this gluing board so that I can glue all my panels together at once. I've got two long rails, which is just some lumber I had lying around, and I've screwed two cleats just the right distance apart so that I can fit these wedges in at the top to compress everything together. Once everything's together, I'll put another cleat on top to hold everything down so that nothing pops up. This expanding polyurethane glue is wonderful stuff, but it is moisture activated. And out here in the desert, well, I don't have much of that. So I brought my own, just a little spray bottle, dampen things down a little bit around here. This will make it the glue set much faster than it would naturally. That looks pretty sturdy. I'll leave this here, let it set up, come back to it later. I've got to cut a whole stack of dados to receive the panels that I'm gluing up. It's not going to be easy with this little thin curved saw. What I've done is create a little fence that I'll clamp to each board, and then I can run my saw blade down it, flip the board over, and cut the other side since the dados are centered. The dados in the leg are a little bit more complicated than the dados in the rails because the dado isn't centered on the board, so I can't just flip it over back and forth. Moving the fence around is a pain and a lot of work, so what I'll be doing is using wood spacers to shift the blade over to the right position. Also, this is a stop dado. It's not really going to be a big deal to have somewhat of a gap at the top because you can't see it, but at the bottom I don't want a dado groove showing up in the final product. I'll just have to remember to stop before I continue all the way to the end. This was a handy little jig. I think I'll keep it around for later, especially since I have to make the doors next. In the meantime, I need to clean out the rest of these dados with my handy chisel. I've milled up the stock for the doors, but 1.5-inch thick doors are going to feel a little bit clunky on a cabinet, so I'm going to remill them thickness wise. Well, that didn't come out very nice. I guess that'll have to be on the inside of the door. It's a good thing I resawed the stiles and rails for the doors extra thick because that method of resawing needs a lot more accuracy than I can get out of a little saw like this. And I've got quite a bit of defects in here that I'm going to have to plane out and sand away. Anyway, on to the next step. The glue is set and it's time to take these out of the clamps. I've cut the two end panels to size. They're square and the right dimensions. But I don't want to put just a flat, boring panel in place. I'd like to do a raised panel. In order to do that, I'm going to use a plane and again the disc sander to bring the edges down to the right thickness to match my dados and to put a little more detail into this project. time to start assembling the side panels. I've test fit the pieces, pre-sanded them, and ready to go. That went pretty smooth. Notice I didn't put any glue on the panel itself. The panel will expand and contract, and if I glue it into place, it's just going to expand one day and tear the whole piece apart. I'm going to go ahead, glue up the other ones, and leave them to set overnight.